They gave me 24 hours to leave my grandfather's mansion, but they forgot I owned it. The moment I walked out of that mahogany conference room, the air outside felt lighter, but I knew the storm was far from over. Within 3 hours, my phone started exploding. Dozens of frantic calls from Aunt Beatrice, furious text messages from Julian, and fake, weeping voicemails from Clara begging me to think of family. The greed that had driven them to try to leave me penniless had now turned into pure panic. You see, what Beatrice hadn't told anyone was that she, Julian, and Clara had already taken out massive loans against their expected inheritance. They had signed lease terminations on their current luxury apartments, expecting to move into Grandfather Alistair's multi-million-dollar Boston estate by the end of the week. Without the mansion to sell or live in, the remaining trust funds were barely enough to pay off their immediate debts. They were financially ruined. True to my word, 24 hours later, I arrived at the mansion with a team of locksmiths and security guards. When I pulled up the driveway, I saw 2 moving vans parked out front. Beatrice and her children were furiously packing boxes, throwing Alistair's antique furniture into the back. They were pillaging the house. I stepped out of my car and walked up the stone steps, signaling the security team to block the entrance. "Stop right there," I said, my voice echoing through the grand hallway. Beatrice whirled around, holding a pair of rare 18th century silver candlesticks. Her eyes were bloodshot, her costly coat disheveled. "This is our family heritage!" she screeched, pointing a trembling finger at me. "You stole this house from us, you snake! We are taking what is rightfully ours." "Those candlesticks belong to the house," I replied calmly. "And everything inside this house was appraised and cataloged as part of the real estate sale 3 years ago. You aren't just taking furniture, Aunt Beatrice. You're committing grand larceny on private property." Julian stepped forward, trying to intimidate me just like he used to when we were kids. "You think you're so smart, don't you? We spoke to a new lawyer this morning. We're suing you for elder abuse and fraud. We're taking you to court, and we will take this house back, along with every single penny you have." I couldn't help but smile. It was the same arrogant bluff he always pulled when he was caught red-handed. "Go ahead, Julian," I said, leaning against the archway. "File the lawsuit. But before you do, you might want to ask Mr. Vance about the second document in Grandfather's vault." Clara stopped packing a box of porcelain and looked up, her face turning pale. "What second document?" "Grandfather Alistair knew exactly who you were," I said, looking at each of them. "He knew you only visited him when you needed money. He knew you were waiting for him to die. So 6 months before he passed, he had Mr. Vance draft a no-contest clause with a penal addendum." I pulled a folded piece of paper from my coat pocket. "It states that if any beneficiary attempts to contest the terms of his estate, sue the trust, or attack the owner of the mansion, their share of the remaining trust is instantly reduced to $0 and redirected entirely to a local children's charity." The silence in the grand foyer was absolute. Beatrice dropped the silver candlesticks onto the rug with a heavy thud. Julian's fists unclenched, his face draining of all color. "So, you have a choice," I continued, stepping closer. "You can take your small share of the trust, pay off your debts, and figure out how to live a life where you actually have to work for your money. Or you can take me to court, lose everything down to your last dime, and pay my legal fees when the judge throws your case out." Clara started crying, not out of pity this time, but out of absolute defeat. She grabbed Julian's arm. "Julian, stop. We can't afford to lose the trust money too. Please." Beatrice stood frozen, looking at me not with anger anymore, but with a horrifying realization. The quiet granddaughter they had walked all over for decades had completely outmaneuvered them. "Your 24 hours are up," I said softly, motioning to the security guards. "Put the candlesticks back, take your personal clothes, and get off my property." Without another word, Julian grabbed his mother by the shoulder and dragged her toward the door. Clara followed, sobbing hysterically as they loaded into their cars and drove down the long, winding driveway, leaving the estate for the last time. As the gate closed behind them, I walked into Grandfather's study. I sat down in his leather armchair, surrounded by the smell of old books and familiar memories. They thought they were getting the ultimate triumph when the lawyer read $0 next to my name. But in the end, they learned the hard way. Greed buys you a lifestyle, but love and loyalty keep the home.